Hey everybody, this is Scoots, and you're listening to Bedtime Stories from Sleep With Me, which is just stories from the Sleep With Me podcast. So if you like the stories from Sleep With Me, you've even checked out our original podcast, a full length. It's called Sleep With Me. And if you enjoy these stories, you could support the production of the show and get tons of stories-only versions of Sleep With Me on Sleep With Me Plus. If this show is worth, if you listen to it on a regular basis, you say, this show is worth $60 a year to me. This show's worth $120 a year to me. Sign up. You can sign up monthly or annually. You get a podcast with story-only versions of Sleep With Me, like this, but ad-free. You get full versions of Sleep With Me, bonus versions of Sleep With Me. And you help us keep making the show well into, hopefully, like the long future. So, but if you're new, check this out. This is called Bedtime Stories from Sleep With Me. And it'll be Bedtime Stories from Sleep With Me podcast. Thanks and good night. Friends beyond the binary, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time for the podcaster who I won't put you out like a light switch. And I definitely won't do the other. I won't be turning any lights on. I'm more like I'm lowering the dimmer switch slowly. And I make this podcast if you're new, because you do deserve a good night's sleep. This is a different podcast. It's here to keep you company and take your mind off of stuff. It goes nowhere. It rarely makes sense. It's just kind of barely fun, and it's definitely welcoming. So I'm glad you're here. Check the show out. Comes out for free twice a week on Sundays and Wednesdays. And here's how we're able to be here for you free twice a week. If you're a regular listener, if you could check these sponsors out when your hand hits the fridge or the coffee pot tomorrow, it'd be great. sleepwithmepodcast.com/sponsors. Hey, everybody, this is Scoots. If you're looking for the most comfortable way to listen to Sleep With Me podcast or bedtime stories from Sleep With Me, you can get yourself a pair of sleep phones, like Sleep With Me merchandise sleep phones with different logos and cool stuff on there. And you could get that at sleepwithmepodcast.com/sleepphones and use Sleep With Me at checkout to save $5 off your order. Thanks, everybody. All right. Hey, everybody. Scoots here. And this is a different kind of episode. And like totally new. And so it should be interesting. And I don't know if this may be created in two parts. I'm not even sure. And I didn't know if this would, so I don't know. So this is like a couple days in the Bay. And the idea of this one is maybe to find some, I wouldn't say they're underrated gems where you live or where I live in this example, but a couple like half-day adventures you could go on. Now, I guess if you were coming to the Bay Area, if you live in the Bay Area, this should be on your list, or whatever I talk about in this episode. Say, hey, add this to your list. But the reason it's good to sleep to is it won't be anything exciting. And if you were coming from out of town to visit, wouldn't necessarily need to do this unless it's your fifth time coming to the Bay Area for a visit. So I don't know if that's what do they call that? Tourism. Like a local tour, because it's not really a staycation, because it's just a day trip. Stuff to do, I guess they'd call it. And I want to encourage you to do this because one, it's something I fall in and out of. The more I fall into a routine, the less likely I am to go on local adventures, and then I have to kind of re-spark that for some reason. And it always, in my mind, seems more difficult than it necessarily is. Don't know why, but it just is. So it's something I'm working towards changing. And so I'd like to take you along on this day trip here, where we'll be going out to Antioch, Pittsburgh, and Walnut Creek. We will be eating at a chain restaurant. And I don't know how many historical facts I have. I can look some up on Wikipedia, I'm sure. But let's take the journey. Let me look on a map, actually, of some of the places we'll journey, because that's a part of it, you know. So if you're in the Bay, what you first want to do is, depending on where you are in the Bay, is you want to get to 680 north. So for those of you in San Francisco or the peninsula, well, if you're, depending on where you are in the peninsula, it'll be different. But if you're in the east, in the Oakland, Berkeley, the East Bay or San Francisco, you're going to take 24 and you're going to connect with 680. And you'll take 680 north. Now, this is where it gets confusing. It got confusing for me is that there's a road called 242, which I think is also 680. I don't know. And you're going to take 242 north, where 680 splits off and heads northwest. You're going to take 242, which heads north and or a tiny bit northeast. And by this time, on 680 and 24, you'll be passing through Walnut Creek, Pleasant Hill, Concord. And then you'll get out there and you'll hit, I don't know, what is it we hit here? Don't worry, I got a map thing open. 4. Though you could take Willow Pass Road. We did not take it. I was just following the directions that were given to me. And here's the thing, this part is all you could take BART for some of this, not all of it. So I can't give you advice for all of it, but this is pretty cool. If you haven't been out here, you get to start to see some things you haven't seen before, and you'll see some industry. You'll see those rolling hills I talked about. You'll see Mount Diablo at some point. And then you'll start heading east on 4. And you'll be to your left will be Sassoon Bay and what is that called? The Delta, right? That's what they call that. The Sacramento Delta. I think that's what they call it. And we'll start proceeding through, you'll start heading west. And as you see the hills, you'll see some open areas. And some open areas that may become housing soon that used to be U.S. property. And you'll eventually pass Willow Pass Road. We couldn't tell, honestly, if it was a school or a movie theater under construction. Pretty close to Willow Pass Road, I think, but it may have been further along. You do a little bit of an elevation gain before you come back down. And again, yeah, you'll see the, I guess what is this, where the Sacramento River meets, the San Joaquin River? Is that what it is, Scoots? I don't really know. There's Stockton, Rio Vista. That is the San Joaquin River. I'm trying to figure, I'm working with you. Don't worry, buddy. Sacramento, deep water ship channel. So there is a way for ships to actually get to, Stockton, I believe, and, Sacramento, through this delta. But I don't know. Other than that, the answers are not coming. San Francisco Bay, Estuary, Research, Grizzly. I'm just looking at a map here. But anyway, you're going to continue heading east. You'll pass Pittsburgh, Bay Point, then Pittsburgh, and eventually get to Antioch. Oh, before you get to Antioch, so between Pittsburgh and Antioch is where we'll stop. But first, I want to say, I think I took Highway 4 one time as an experiment all the way to Stockton. So let me see if that's possible. Oh, yeah, it connects with Vasco Road, too. Well, that's interesting. Let me see if I took it all the way there. Just one time I had to do something out in Antioch or Pittsburgh, and then I had to go to Stockton, I think. And yeah, I did take it all the way to Stockton. I don't know if it's necessarily the most, because there's Discovery Bay. I think I've been out there once or twice. That's pretty far out. Byron. Yeah, these are all exurbs. Brentwood, not the Brentwood in Los Angeles. This is a Bay Area version a Bay Area Brentwood. But there's a lot of cool parks out there. We're still in the East Bay Parks District for some of this. And I was even looking, there's this Big Break regional shoreline sounds pretty cool. San Joaquin River and, the Sacramento River and the San Joaquin River, enter this delta or whatever you want to call it, this that goes into the bay. So this water is like, what do you call it? Briny, like where they go from salt to, so where the fresh water meets the salt water at some point. San Pablo Bay. But yeah, so at one point I did take Highway 4 all the way to Stockton. It was not efficient. I don't know if I thought it would save me time or I just wanted to see if I could do it, but I did do it. Oh, there's an Antioch water park. Never heard of that. At the Antioch Community Center. So it looks like their community pool. Okay, but where we're getting off here for now is, let me find my thing here. Where do we get off? Somersville Road. And it's a big intersection on Highway 4. And it looks like it is officially in Antioch, but right in the middle of Antioch and Pittsburgh. And we're going to head south west, I guess. So you're basically going to go right on Somerville Road. And you're going to take Somerville Road. Oh, but this is imaginary. So ahead of time, what you're going to want to do is go to the East Bay Parks website. Because our first stop, or our main stop, first stop is Black Diamond Mines Regional Preserve Park. And that is technically in Antioch, 94509. And so it's at the end of Somerville Road. But you do want to make a reservation ahead of time for one of three. There's 3 different tours you can go on. There are different places where trying to think of what's most sleepy. Some of the stuff's there's nothing not sleepy about what we're going to do. But for some people, it could be archetypally not sleepy. But let me go to Wikipedia and I'll read to you about it. But you want to make a reserve for one of the tours. I guess we could use it calls it the Black Diamond Mines. I think that's because at some point they mined coal there, and then they mined silica or sand there. And according to Wikipedia, the Black Diamond Mines Regional Preserve is a 6,000-acre park north of Mount Diablo, Contra Costa County, administered by the East Bay Parks Regional Park District. And it was acquired in 1973, relics of 3 mining towns, former coal and sand mines, and offers a guided tour of the former sand mine. But you can also go on a tour that's based on history or just the coal mining tour, which we did, which is a short tour. And one of the reasons we did it is, one, I never been there. I love being inside the earth. And I have full, places that say you can have our full confidence. So that for this example, they said, you have our full confidence. Come on inside our earth here. So getting a tour of that kind of stuff. But this was always something that just seemed a little bit too far. So the drive is about, I don't know how long the drive is. Let's actually look it up. I know we had the map up here. What are directions? How long would yeah, it's from the East Bay, from 24, once you hit 24, if there's no traffic, you're talking about 30 to 45 minutes. So, yeah, check it out. Okay, so let's go back. 60 mile, the preserve contains relics. We covered that. Offers guided tours. There's trails, 60 miles of trails in the preserves of rolling foothill terrain covered with grassland, oak woodland, mixed evergreen forest, and shrapperal or whatever, however you say that. I don't know. I'm not kidding. Sharpel, and we'll talk about that. Wikipedia has some really nice pictures. And historically, we'll cover it a little bit just because, why not? 1859, there was a coal deposit discovered. And it wasn't successful at first, but then things were growing rapidly because it was part of the overall Mount Diablo coal field. And so there's some left, like some of that there. There was towns there: Nortonville, Somerville, Stewartville, West Hartley, and Judsonville. And you can kind of see one of them because it's on private property, or two of them. The mines, they're Empire, Central Star, Corcoran, Pittsburgh, Manhattan, Eureka, Independent, Union, and Black Diamond, Mount Hope, and Cumberland. Now, the thing about the coal is they told us this on the tour, too. It was low grade because of its age. It wasn't as old as other coal deposits discovered elsewhere, so it didn't burn very clean. It was sub-bituminous or something, but it was like the only source of readily accessible source in California. And it was carried to the San Joaquin River by 3 railroads and then put on barges for Sacramento, Stockton, and San Francisco area stuff. And then as better quality coal became available and easier to ship, they said, okay, that's not great. And you can't really go on any tours of the actual coal mines, though we got a little bit of a view of one, or maybe it's a sand mine that they said this is what it was like if it was a coal mine. But we went on a coal mining tour. And you can look in different other ones. It's a really nice park. There's also other historical areas, including where people are resting for a long time. And then there's the sandstone mine. This is the 1920s. And the interesting thing about the tour, too, is said, hey, like a lot of the stuff you use, like glass, for example, it comes from somewhere like this. So it's good for my daughter and I to see it together. And actually, we live pretty close to the plant that's still open, I think. In the 1920s, high-quality silica sandstone, they started taking that out of Somersville area, and that was sold to the Hazel Atlas, is what it's called now, and for containers, and that was operated till 1945. There was another one in Nortonville, and that Hazel Atlas is slowly being restored and maintained, and I'd like to go on that for a tour. And you can go into, there's like a portal, they call it, and that's where their visitor center is, which is really, really cool in the museum. Let's see. Recreation, you got great views of the Mount Diablo and the River Delta, a lot of wildflowers, wildlife. We saw some birds, and the park is open year round. 2016, someone else donated some more land to it. So I think that's it for the history. Let's cover that, however you say that word, because we went on a hike. Okay, so let me tell you, give you more directions, then we'll go to more facts. So we drove up Somerville Road. Then you enter the park, and then you go on a winding road. Now go slow, because there's people doing biking up and down the hill. And you do a slow elevation gain going up the hill there, and then you park, and there are, now you do have to, go to the visitor centers a bit away, I don't know, like a quarter mile maybe from the parking. So make sure you have sunscreen, water, a hat, maybe some, the kind of stuff you'd bring on a hike. And it could be pretty warm out there. The day we went, it was not. It was windy, and the sun was out, but it was not warm. It was not hot. And so I drank 2 Coke Zeros, so I used the PIT facility, a pit-based water closet, and then we headed up towards the visitor center. We checked in. We were early. We watched a film from an old episode of Bay Area Backroads, covering the mine and the surrounding park. and looked at some of the exhibits. Then we went for a hike on a trail. I think it was called Chaparral. That's according to Wikipedia. And I think that was the name of the trail we went on, a loop. It was pretty cool because it went by a couple historical places. Now, the only thing was we had about a half hour. And it was a really nice hike, but then it was a loop, but I don't think we knew how long the loop was. So then we started getting under a time crunch. And when Scoots gets under a time crunch. So the first part of the loop that we went on went uphill. And the second one went downhill. But this chaparral, that makes sense. I mean, remember, I'm dyslexic. So this stuff, when it's not a sight word and it's very confusing like this, it is really not easy for me. But it's a shrubland plant community. And I think these are the ones, I'm more familiar with seeing them a lot in Los Angeles and like the Angeles National Forest. But you can find them in California, Southern Oregon, Baja Peninsula. It needs a Mediterranean climate and stuff to kind of give it area. They're summer drought tolerant plants, evergreen leaves. Which is different than coastal sage scrub, which is found on other drier slopes within their biome. And there's other closely related shrubland systems in Arizona and Texas. But yeah, these ones, they need, you could see them, yeah. And then it's, let's see. Mature chaparral is characterized by impenetrable dense thickets, and they do get dry, so you got to watch, you got to take care. They grow as woody shrubs with thick, leathery, often small leaves. They contain leaves all year. They're evergreen and drought resistant. And they they do flower occasionally after the first rain. Let's see. I think these are the ones with the red bark. I don't know. That's what I mean. I would have thought that would have led with that. So maybe I'm talking about two different plants. Maybe that's manzanita. I don't know. I guess we got to look up manzanita now just to cover me. Because I'm not seeing the bark, and the bark, oh no, there you go. Oh, manzanita, there we go. Oh boy. So I don't know my chaparral from my manzanita, which I mean, I guess is not surprising. Let's see. So manzanita is another evergreen shrub. It grows in the chaparral biome. So maybe manzanita is a type of chaparral. So we could have gone on the manzanita loop or the chaparral loop. Manzanitas can live in places with poor soil, little water, smooth orange or red bark. There you go. And stiff twisting branches. There's 105 species of manzanita. 95 of which are found in the Mediterranean climate or colder regions, and they can grow up to 20 feet tall. They bloom in the winter to early spring. They do have berries and flowers, and it's like it's translated to little apple, and they're I don't know, they're really cool looking trees or bushes or plants. So if you haven't seen a manzanita and you're not on a tour with someone that doesn't know his manzanita from his chaparral, do yourself a favor and check it out. So that's one thing. I mean, that's one. So we went on the hike, right? Through manzanita, through chaparral. Looked at different stuff. There was sandstone. There was other stuff. There was other people hiking. It was a beautiful day. And again, it was just nice to be out. And even for where I live in the East Bay, it's a different environment. Even though it was only 45 minutes away, it's a hotter, drier climate out there. And it's cool to be out there because it doesn't get as much of the Bay coastal fog as we do. And so we had a nice little hike, but it did get tense as the time was clicking down because we had gone too far to go back the way we came. Well, it was like a gamble I took. I said, well, if this is a loop, and it's not known, it wasn't like it didn't seem like it was an intense hiking. I was like, we should be able to complete the loop. So it was my fault, my responsibility too. But we completed the loop literally with like 1 or 2 minutes to spare before the tour began. But then people showed up to the tour late anyway. And then we went on a nice tour. We got to see these East Bay Park tours are really well done. They had photos. They had a piece of coal. There was also larger photos and murals on the walls that we stopped and looked at. There was historical exhibits. So we kind of got an idea of what it was like for this tour to take coal out of the area and the process of doing that and the uses. And then a brief touch on the history, specifically in the history of these towns that would spring up and then move on to the next coal town. So it was nice and really well done tour. Really nice thing. I highly recommend it. Again, if you live in the Bay Area or the East Bay, you may have gone on. Did I talk? No, I guess I went on a tangent before I finished this tangent. So this is something I'd always wanted to do. And then my daughter, she was supposed to, that's a big school field trip. That's what my point I was trying to make, that you go on. And her school field trip did not, like the day of the field trip, she was not feeling well. So she didn't go on the field trip. I think it was in 4th or 5th grade. So she never made it on this tour. And I think there was one other time I had scheduled the tour or paid for it. It's $3 to $5. And then we couldn't make it. So this has been something that has been on my bucket list. I think that and it sounded way more work than it was to drive. I don't know, just to reserve something to drive out there. I don't know if you could relate, but to me, that's too much for me to handle. So, that's just, that's me. That's who I am. So, then what was my point? I don't know. I have no idea what my point was. I don't know. So it's finally something we got to do. So it's cool and well worth it. But one day I'd like to go on the Hazel Mine tour, but probably not for a while just because I just was there. And maybe do some more hiking because there's a lot to see. And my daughter didn't have the best shoes, and she's not big into hiking. She enjoyed the hike we went on. Also, I prefer hikes with, mountain streams that we can jump in, just like, who doesn't? Okay, so we did that, right? We've recovered. We got that covered, right? So we did that. Then, the next stop was lunch for us. Now, again, to some of you, this is going to seem strange, but I'll explain it. But we don't live in an area I think this is like everybody. When I first moved to California, I remember the first time I ate at Jack in the Box, it was a big privilege because we just didn't have Jack in the Boxes on the East Coast. And I don't know if there's any other ones that jump out to me. I mean, In-N-Out, but In-N-Out wasn't as big back then. So I think we actually had to drive to Downey from where I lived in L.A. to get to an In-N-Out. But so for some of you have Sonic, which has ads on TV all the time. Sonic Burger is what it's called. But there's no urban Sonics where we live. And so to go to Sonic is an adventure for us, and a rarity. And it was something we did twice during the pandemic, or maybe only once. I think we did it twice, where it was during 2020 and 2021, just going to get takeout or whatever was a big deal. That was a adventure because you were, and now it's a drive. It's kind of like old fashioned, no roller skates anymore. But particularly during 2020 and 2021, it was perfect because they bring it to your car and then you eat in your car anyway, and you order from your car, and your car's parked in an overhang. And so it was a treat because they're famous for their limeade. I did not get the limeade. My daughter got diet limeade, and she said it was really good. I think I tasted it. I had Coke Zero. And I had a hamburger. It was really good. We got their mozzarella sticks were very good. My daughter got a chili cheese dog. She said it was good. They have tater tots and fries, curly fries. I think curly fries. And then we got very similar to other places. I think they call them blasts there, like a blizzard, flurry, blast. I had Butterfinger, and my daughter had Reese's Peanut Butter Cup. And that was all very good, and it was enjoyable. And, yeah, it was nice. We sat in the car, and we sat in the car and enjoyed our meal. It was really nice. So let's see. We got, let's see what else is going on. So we did that. Now we didn't finish our Butterfinger, our blasts, because, no, so yeah, I guess that's all the explanation. It was just a treat for us because we never eat there. And it was a Saturday, and that's the day I kind of let loose on how I like whatever. It was a nice treat. But then we kind of enjoyed our blasts as we drove, and we had one more stop. And it was really amazing. It was in Walnut Creek. I had accidentally found this place when I was on a walk, and I was so happy to discover it was still in business because Walnut Creek, downtown Walnut Creek, is where the co-working space I use during the week is when my daughter's at school. And especially when I first went there, I would go out for a lot of walks. I would take a break and I would go for a walk because I was not familiar with Walnut Creek. I'm still not totally familiar with it. And, I didn't know if we would move to that area, that general area or not. And I knew I'd be spending a lot of time there. So I was going for a lot of walks. And at one point I went for a walk and I was in an unfamiliar area, not far from where my co-working space was, but there was like a path going through like apartments or condos, but it seemed like a public path. And so I went through that path, like, when condos are built around a common green type thing without parking. So it was very nice going through the heart of these condos or apartments. And then I went through another little path. And actually, even though it was a weekday, there was a couple of people enjoying the park or the common green. And then it kind of dumped me out on a street, which was weird. But I said, okay. And I said, should I go left or right? And I said, I guess I'll go left. And I turned left on the street in a parking lot. And this was kind of like a kind of suburb type street. I think there was, like a piano lesson place, nail shop, insurance office, a couple takeout restaurants, independent ones. But in the back parking lot was a seemingly somewhat homemade putt-putt course, like in the parking lot. So no theming on the course. And like a homemade one. And I mean, I don't mean homemade in an insulting way in this case, because I said, that's cool. I hope that, and I think maybe it was even open. I'm not even sure, but I just kind of glanced at it. And I think I Googled it. And then more recently I said, you know what? I want to go back there. Let me Google and see if it's still around. And we did. And it's called Putter's Putt-Putt. I hope it's still open when you're even listening to this, if you're in the Bay. And we went there. Not only did they have 18 holes, I think they had 22 holes. And they were like this person, I don't know if the person who we paid was the person who built the course. And that it seems like they're kind of like a fun scientist of mini golf. So it's like it was such a wonderful thing to see. Like there was no, it would be difficult at this point to take it apart and move it. But it seemed like they're still going to be adding on even more holes. A lot of the holes were very inventive. The price was amazing. Like I said, there wasn't, they said, there's 22 holes or 21 holes, just so you know. And it was just really, really fun. Now, if you go to in a more expensive, built-in mini golf place, there's more theming and stuff, but this was about the golf, and for me and my daughter about the competition because we're about evenly matched. And so we really enjoyed that. And, hopefully, I think on the next update here, I'll update you with another mini golf trip because I guess that's kind of like part of the adventures we're going on. So Scoots will be back in a little bit here with another update. Everybody, Scoots here, back with another Bay afternoon. Now, for this one, we're going right to San Francisco. And you could walk it. I probably suggested walking it, taking public transit, but you could drive. But how you get there is not important as getting there. And you could plan an afternoon. You could probably plan a morning. You could plan a whole day and a whole evening. And this is the area, I don't know what it's actually called. It's I would call it South of Market, but I know I'm wrong. Oh, Mission Bay. Is that what it's called? Yeah, let's see here. Old Wikipedia. Just looked it up. Mission Bay, San Francisco is a 303-acre neighborhood, according to Wikipedia. It's bordered by China Basin and the Dog Patch, which I think you will be going into China Basin as well, and San Francisco Bay to the east. Originally an industrial district, it redeveloped with UCSF Mission Bay campus and the Chase Center. Its location, as we said, is, let's see, the history. It used to be a salt marsh and lagoon. Then it was where refuge from building projects was placed, then debris. Then the marsh quickly stabilized with the weight of the infill, then became an industrial district. It was used for shipbuilding and repair and other things. Believe it or not, you could pass by where Jack London was born. I don't know if that's in here because that might be in China Basin. Attractions, it has UCSF. Let's see, the headquarters of, interesting, of Old Navy and the Gap. The northern terminus of 3rd Street Light Rail Project and the northern terminus at Caltrain. So you could take the train there from a lot of places. There's a public library, so I'm going to have to make multiple trips here. What else we got here? The San Francisco Bay Trail, the Blue Greenway Waterfront Trail. So these are things I didn't check out, but I highly suggest them. Sinking Sidewalk. So I'll be going back here. It's also served by the N. Judah and the T 3rd Street lines of the Metro. And it's adjacent to South Beach, which maybe is where Oracle Park is. So I may have been in South Beach. I don't know. But Mission Bay is, I could see some UCSF stuff, but whatever. So anyway, what was my point? My point is that you should go check it out because it's like a nice area. All those areas. So basically, let me see, if you're not from San Francisco, like you could, between the neighborhoods that are south of Market, I believe is what the area is called. So you got China Basin, Mission Bay, South Beach, I guess. And you could go to, you could even go, if you really like a walker like I am, you could go walk from the ferry building under the bridge along the Embarcadero and the waterfront, maybe stop at, there's two famous burger places on the water. There's also the Delancey Street Cafe. And then you could keep walking. You could check out the Giants Stadium. You could go to a game there. You could watch it from the outside. When we happened to go, it was a big sporting night. Now, we went early because of this. So it was bustling. What a great, and I love, what I love is a bustling area when I'm in a good mood. And I happen to be in a good mood. So I was prepared for some bustling. So we saw the Giants were playing the Dodgers that night. And so we saw a lot of Giant and Dodger fans. being friendly and loving towards one another. Mostly people were getting ready to go to dinner or to a pub or whatever, because it was like round dinner. It wasn't, I think it was about 3 hours before the game. And then also you saw a lot of people in Dubs jerseys, so the San Francisco Warriors or the Golden State Warriors, I guess. And they were going to Chase Center. Now, there wasn't a game at Chase Center, but you could watch one of the NBA final games from within Chase Center or outside of it. Now, this was not on our plan. Also, just because I love walking, my guest, who is my daughter, she does not love walking anymore because, it's like what a way to have your child rebel against you, not liking walking anymore. But I probably walked her too much. So I guess if you're going to rebel, I say, okay, well, at least you'll do stuff. You just won't walk as much. So I couldn't really get her to do a lot of these walking trails, but what she would do is walk 18 holes of miniature golf with me. But what I'm saying is there's a lot to look at. If you're into adult, beer and stuff, there's a lot of places to go have a drink. There's also a lot of places to eat, which is part of what we're doing. And so we're going to the Stagecoach Greens, which is a mini golf place within this area, San Francisco, called, let me look up. Well, the mini golf place is called Stagecoach Greens. But there's also, it's adjacent to this food truck park called Spark Social. And so it's really cool because and especially if you're like, again, they had a bunch of places to get, not like adult drinks, soda drinks, there's soda stuff, And so there's like 2 blocks of food trucks, plenty of seating, and there was plenty of shade. And so we got there. We had made a reservation. Here's one thing. If you're going to play at Stagecoach Greens, make a reservation. I think you have to in order to, like, you make a tee time and you pay for your ticket ahead of time. And we had that. We were actually early, surprise, surprise, when you're with Scoots. And so they said, you're early, and we got a large party in front of you. So can you come back at your tea time? And it happened that my daughter was a little bit hungry, so we got some fries and a lemonade from a stand. And I'll say the fries were really good. The lemonade was not good. It was a little bit of a disappointment. It was over $3. And I'll be honest, it wasn't even worth $1. So that was a little bit of a frustration, but, not the end of the world because we needed our liquid. So, but the fries were excellent. Holy mackerel, were these good fries. So that kind of made up for it. They were from the same truck. And then we proceeded to play some golf at Stagecoach Greens, which is, it's a well-themed course. Now if you're, it is, wouldn't say it was super challenging. And, I'm just getting it, this is only this is like, I'm not really good at mini golf, but it was fun. And I'll just run through. There's 18 holes. It was very busy. So you had to we packed our patience and we used it. And we just even with the reservations, it was after work on a Friday night, I think. And so there's a lot of going on. So I would recommend going in off hours, like on a weekday during the day or something. But let's see. So you had the Rocking Stone, a Barbary Coast Saloon. That's hole 1 and 2. Immigrant Trail, which was a mountain. Stagecoach Wheel. Sierra Mining Tunnels. Gold Rush place where people rest, then a gold cart, then the railroad joining the nation, Mission Bay, Shipyard. Alpha in the Air was funny. It was like Rock'em Sock'em Robots, but with skyscrapers. Each hole also had a little history panel, which was cool, and a sound effect. So those 2 things were nice also to experience, in my opinion. Sutro Fog, that was a really nice hole. Splash Hit, that's for the Giants Stadium. A Walk in the Woods was Golden Gate Park. I felt that was, what's that, Fuller House, or a Victorian, Ocean Beach Bonfire, Spirit of Invention, Dragon's Gate, and Eureka. And so they were nice holes. It was a nice golf course. It was outside. I mean, which again is a rarity in San Francisco. I think this is the only outdoor mini golf course. Seems to be independently operated. I think they maybe they have one other course in Denver. I can't remember. I thought that came up. A little, San Francisco prices, so prepare yourself. You got to pay ahead of time anyway. And very busy, but we had fun. Let's see. I did have 3 hole-in-ones, which for me is pretty rare. So, I mean, I think on the second hole, it was a nice shot. That was straight down the middle. It wasn't a trick shot. You just had to go under something, so you couldn't see the hole, but you could tell where it was. On hole 4... That was a result of a mulligan, I'll be honest. And then I got 14. Oh, so 14 was a hole in what so 14 and 4. So I only had actually 1 hole in 1 because the other 2 we each get a mulligan on the front 9 and the back 9. And while I don't note it, I did remember that is where I got what was my worst hole? Great question. Hole 6, I maxed out at hole 6. That was, that was just a long hole. That was a gold rush place where people rest at the big farm. And I think it was just a matter of, I think I also missed 2 close putts. So it's probably I was going for a 3 and then missed the 3. Then I missed the 4. And I do remember that was like, I told my daughter, I'm like, okay, this kind of puts us close to even again, which it did wow, I think we tied the front half. I was only up by 1 stroke and then we tied on the back half. So I actually had a victory. That's rare. Usually I come in third because I get frustrated, So we finished up mini golf. Then we used the facilities. And then we headed to this, the larger part of Spark Social. Is that what it was called? The couple of retired mini golf fanatics. This is from sfeater.com, are the visionaries behind Stagecoach Greens. And, it follows the theme of boom and bust. They had different fabricators work on them. And so then the food trucks, so there was food trucks. There's 5 food trucks from Park Labs, which is the one that runs the food trucks, and Spark Social. That were at Stagecoach Greens. And, they just had a bad day on the lemonade. Let me just say that. But then you could go one more block down to the whole Spark Social, which I was talking about, and eat, from a multitude of places or drink from a multitude of places and sit down. And it was, again, bustling, but not overpacked. It was busy, but not too busy. And there was a couple of the big name. We decided, my daughter wanted quesabirra, which I think I talked about recently. With there's a difference between birra, birra is kind of stewed meat, and quesabirra, which is birra, stewed meat, usually in this case of beef, but it's cooked in this consomme. So we got to consomme. And it's cooked in consomme. I don't know. It's tough to describe. You'll have to look it up. So we hadn't had quesabirra in a while, but it really worked out because we got 2 quesabirra tacos or 2 quesabirra. I think that's just what you call it, just quesabirra, which is basically you take the birra with cheese, and then on the griddle, they cook the tortilla, and then they use melt the cheese, heat up the beef, and they do that in some consomme, which has this, some of the chilies and stuff. So it kind of crisps it up and melts the cheese, a lot of cheese, if you're a big fan of cheesy stuff. So we had 2 of those, 1 each, with a consommé, which I think came included. I don't know. I don't remember paying extra for it. Some places charge extra for a side of consommé. But so we got that, and then I got a pizza from a pizza place. And I got to tell you, like, the people at the pizza place, they went above and beyond with their service. The quesadilla place was great, too. But they were just really friendly and really on top of it, and they were out of napkins. I said, hey, you're out of napkins. They took care of that really quick. And the pizza was really good. It was like one of those smaller personal size. But here's where it really worked out. So then we ate the quesadilla, kept the consommé. Then I went and got the pizza. I also picked up a root beer for myself and a LaCroix. And I don't know what my daughter had to drink. But, and then we took the pizza and dipped it in the consommé. And I'll tell you what, if you have a side of consommé with this was like a meat pizza, so it had sausage, pepperoni, and salami. First, we tried the crust, but then even dipping the pizza in itself in the consommé was unbelievable. It was just great to be around, like outdoors. It was bustling. People were enjoying themselves. A lot of people like enjoying their post-work happy hour kind of situation. And then tons of jerseys because people were going there before the Dubs game and before the Giants game. And really enjoyable, really pleasurable evening. So that's another one you could do as a lunch. You could do it as a dinner. I don't know about a breakfast. Probably not, but maybe for brunch. And you could do a lot of walking, or you could go to see a sporting event, or you could just play some mini golf. So that's another day in the bay from Scoots to you. Good night, everybody. All right, I want to thank everybody that became a patron recently. Catherine, Mama B, and Rachel. Thanks, and good night. Jonathan, Bioscience Girl, and Kimberly. Thank you. Thanks, and good night. Alex, Natasha, and Caleb. Thank you. Thanks, and good night. Rebecca, Jason, and Will. Thank you. Thanks, and good night. John J., John R., and Andrew. Thanks, and good night. Tron, Nancy, and Lindsay. Thank you. Thanks, and good night. Trond, Shane, and Jennifer, thank you, thanks, and good night. Melissa, Megan, and Purple Danielle, thank you, thanks, and good night. Shy, Justine, and Dakota, thank you, thanks, and good night. Nicole, Halazaka, and Jennifer, thank you, thanks, and good night. Lisa, Robin, and Sheen, thank you, thanks, and good night. Amber, Jared, and Jackie, thank you, thanks, and good night. And Stacy and Diana, thank you, thanks, and good night. Thanks, everybody, for supporting the show and being here. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And, this is the end of the show. For some reason, I thought it was the start of the show. Couldn't do it without the patrons who support the show directly or the people that support the sponsors. That's how we're able to be here for you for free. And we grow as a podcast by people spreading the word about the show. That's how I'm able to be here and keep the podcast growing. Just letting people know about the podcast. And what else we need you to know? Oh, we've gotten up from 200 to almost 500 episodes in the free feed because of these Tuck You In sponsors. So thanks so much. Thanks and good night.